Well, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another Tech Tuesday. Michael and Israel here. See, we got a few folks on. Same old, same old. If you got questions, drop them in the comments. If you're watching this in a shared post in one of the groups, then make sure you click into our actual post to get it so that we can actually see the comment. Otherwise, I'll have to go grab it and use it next week. How's it going?
Going
Cold?
cold and things are picking up, so
Yep.
moving right along.
Yeah, we were just talking. Sounds like we've got quite a few boats getting on the rig schedule. Took that dip through kind of the end of Christmas and then through the first couple of weeks of January, and it seems like it's going just exploding out of the hole. Not to use a boat reference there, but
Yeah.
just coming right out of the hole. But
We got some good hole shot going on.
yes, yeah. So it's good. I know all the manufacturers, lots of discussions about product availability. I'll continue to say it over and over again. If you're looking to buy stuff, looking on the web is but you really probably need to talk. Pick up the phone and call. I'm a guy. I don't really like to. I don't really want to get on the phone with anybody. I'd rather just go find it myself. But in the world today, that's probably one of your best ways to really get the skinny because everything's kind of changing day by day. Would you?
Yeah.
So I know we are getting product in, and manufacturers are doing well. I think this year, I definitely feel like the manufacturers have got a little better bead on where we're at than last year. I think they were maybe guessing a little bit more.
Yeah.
Now it feels like they kind of they're being they're being pretty accurate. So some are doing better than others.
Market's still limited, but
Yeah. So with that, I will say we're gonna start pushing. I know it's Tech Tuesday, but I'll throw it out there. We are definitely looking for boats. If you go on there, it's something we've always done. Don't necessarily make a huge push about it, but we do buy boats. So if you've got a boat that maybe you're not getting to use as much, or you're done tinkering with it, or whatever the case may be, give us a shout. Kind of prefer boats that are less than 12 years old and obviously with a clean title. But give us a shout and we'll see what we can do, or we can always consign it for you. So there's my sales pitch for today. Let's jump into some Tech Tuesday questions. If you guys have them, I'm not seeing any, so maybe nobody's got any questions today. Everybody's got all their problems solved. So we'll start off with this one that I saw in the Yamaha group. What's the trick to removing the oil filter on an F-150 without it spilling all down in the cowling?
well, yeah. Well, I think they actually make a tool to catch it. There's different ways you can do it, but I typically loosen a little bit, and right when it's loose, I let it sit a little while before I take it out. Sometimes it'll drain
Gotcha.
back into the little catch. Otherwise, you just gotta you know put some rags around it and hope for the best. But they do make a little piece for some of them that clip on that'll drain the oil filter. But at this point, you just have to hope it's empty enough to get it off. And a lot of times when you take it off, when you pick it straight up, as soon as you tilt it is when the oil comes out.
Right.
So sometimes you can trick it, get it way up there and then turn it real fast and have some rags handy and hope for the best.
So practice is probably.
Yeah. But the 150 is probably, I don't know if I say the worst. It's close to the worst. There's some of the older V6s that it was like on the front of the motor, kind of an angle, and it had like a cover over it, and there was no hope there. You just, you put a bunch of rags down.
You feel like that's one of those where the engineer really did all the designing and nobody asked the mechanic.
Yeah, there's a few of those engines out there, and that may be one. I can't remember. There's one on the side, and there's an oil pressure sensor right next to the oil filter.
Yeah.
And using a strap wrench, if you slip, you'll break it off flush. I've never done it, but like when I was at school, they would ask if they were going to change that design because a lot of people seem to be breaking them off. So
Well, I know that seems like it should be a simple question,
Yeah.
but sometimes. Eesh. All right. Well, let's see. I found another one. I'm gonna move this over. I put it on the wrong side of the screen. Let's see if we can read this one.
Why is my tachometer sideways?
Yes. Well, because you took a photo vertical, but that's all right. We're not going to treat photos. But basically, it says 230 hours, but the engine's got 690. Is there a way to sync it? And then a comment about I hope the engine icon means it's time for maintenance and not a problem.
Yeah,
So
well, what I'm seeing here, and I see a lot of times people are looking at this particular page where if you hit the button one more time, it'll actually give you the engine hours. There's two, so so they have a trip hour, and then so you can keep up with your maintenance.
okay,
So if you zero it out and it hits 100, it's going to give you that little warning symbol right there.
okay,
Okay, and so you got to go in and reset that. I think you got to hold two buttons down and it'll reset it. But if you hit the button one more time, the mode button, it'll go to the next hour, and that usually tells you how many hours. And with that being said, it's still not going to be exact. You know, the engine hours count a little bit different than that gauge does. Even though it's running off a tack signal,
okay,
it should be within 20 or 30 hours. But more than likely, that is the hour trip for maintenance.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so does that?
'Cause I did have a guy trade in a boat thinking he had like 150 hours on his engine, and he ended up having something like 600, and he hit the button again. It's like, look, this is
Okay.
your hours.
So that tack should pull the.
It's not going to tell you. It's not going to pull the engine hours off the engine. This is a 6Y5 gauge.
Yeah.
And if it was a 6Y8 gauge, it would actually tell you the engine hours. It's a digital gauge. This is,
Okay.
even though it looks it's digital format looking, it doesn't actually give you the data off the engine.
So then let's say in that case, if that tack was added, say 2 years, the next owner of the boat added that tack in there,
it could
have a pretty big.
Yeah, and there's really no way to sync that. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but more than likely, he's not on the right page on that.
So you put a little label under there, like add 200 when you.
Yes, you could do that.
Gotcha. Sometimes, or just remember.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got some. See, I put it on the wrong side of the screen again. Give me just a second, guys. If y'all have got any questions,
or somebody say hello, so we
know yeah. I mean, hopefully we're not broadcasting to the.
They might be. They might be reading our lips. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, it's showing all good on my end, but all right. Well, I hope somebody has a question because this is the last thing I've got.
It's like a.
All right, so hydraulic steering fluids leaking out. I see coming out of the orange gasket. Yeah, now it is not turning at all when I turn the wheel, assuming it's completely drained of fluid, or pretty empty at least. Is there a way to replace the leaking gasket, or is it going to be a much bigger fix?
Well, good news. Yeah, good news. That's the C-Star, hydraulic steering, not power steering, but hydraulic. Sometimes it's power; it's got a motor driving it. But yeah, that's pretty simple fix. I mean, we charge about $325 to replace the caps, and that includes the parts, and then bleeding the system out. So it's not too terrible.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the kit's a little over $100, $120. And usually it takes a couple to 3 hours of labor to do it right.
All right. So not
a big deal if you take it somewhere. It can be a bigger deal if you try to do it yourself.
Gotcha. All right. You went straight for bring it on in. Okay. Well, that's so would there be any other major issue that might come if it's leaking? I mean, particularly if you're seeing it coming out of that.
Yeah, I mean, eventually it's going to leak out enough to where you're going to be the helm is your pump, and eventually that air is going to go to the pump, and that pump, the fluid in that pump gets lower and lower, and then it just spins.
Okay.
And most of the time, people realize it's done it is when they're trying to take a left turn, and they just keep turning, and it still goes straight, and then it'll start easing to the left and scare you a lot.
That's when you probably ought to back off that throttle and
go home.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, how reliable are those hydraulic steering systems?
They're pretty reliable.
Last a while.
I usually see they start leaking after about 5 years.
Okay.
I've seen some of them leak after a year and 6 months. It's just, sometimes there's defective seals, and really what gets them is the cold weather gets them. They get hard in colder weather.
Okay.
And sometimes they'll stop leaking in the summertime when it warms up and they get a little softer. And then in the wintertime they start leaking again. So, but it's best just to go ahead and replace them.
All right. So
it's a pretty good insurance policy. Don't want to lose steering at 70 miles an hour.
No. And I assume they probably actually last a little bit longer the more you use the boat versus
they
just letting them
yeah.
sit.
If they just sit there, they're definitely going to get flat spots on them.
Well, guys, y'all are going to make me go check and see if we're even broadcasting because, just say hello. Oh, we're there. We're there. I see it. So I guess everybody's going to be quiet today.
That's fine.
It's one of those. It's just one of those weeks, I guess.
I gotta go weld anyway.
So I did see. Speaking of hydraulic steering, I did see one question as I was going through on the Falcon group. Since we don't have anybody else interacting, I'll throw it out there. The question was the performance of the F-195. This isn't necessarily a tech question, but the question was, is a Falcon 195 squirrely? That they'd kind of heard that. What would be? That's been something we've talked about. A lot of comments about the 215 and the 205s being like rock solid.
Yeah.
But that 195.
Well, the 195 is pretty solid too. It's different. It's a high performance boat. It's got a 200 on it most of the time.
Yeah.
You put a 150 on it, it's probably gonna mellow out a little bit. But you put a big old 200 horsepower 4-stroke on it. It has a little extra weight to the back. You can adjust the jack plate a little bit to take some of the squirreliness out of it. But once you learn how to drive that boat, that thing is so easy to drive once you figure out the dynamics of it. And like back in the day when you had the 186 and the 196 Triton, the 186 had a 150 on it or 175. That sucker was stupid squirrely, and it would chine walk. So the nose was doing this right here, and you'd really have to drive it. And once you got it down, you could drive it pretty good, even though you still had to drive it. It was okay, And then the 196 with the 200, and they made that 19X. It was really fast boat, like 75 mile an hour boat with a 225 on it, but the same length, of a 19-footer, and that one could be a little bit of a handful to drive. So. I would rather drive one of those than the Triton all day long.
One of the Falcon 195.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the difference in it is people try to drive it like they're trying to create like a Triton, like chine walking, but it doesn't chine walk. What it does is it teeter tots. It teeter tots.
All right.
So when people are driving, they're doing this right here, and then it starts doing this right here because they're overcorrecting.
Gotcha.
Or what I've found is when you drive, and I naturally drive boats really, really well anyway. I'm not bragging on myself. It's just I've got the knack for it. So I never knew there was, an issue with people. So I would take them out and show them that number one, it's drivable. I would literally put them in the driver's seat,
right?
Drive it in the passenger seat for them, and show them that it's really not that hard to drive.
Gotcha.
And it felt kind of weird, but I can drive it in the other seat. That's how easy it is to drive once you get it. So the thing is when you're driving it, if you're moving a lot past this right here, it'll get squirrely on it because you're overdoing it. So that boat it kind of does this right here. Right. And so when you overcorrect for it, you kick the nose out and it makes the nose drop and it tries to do this. So when people are driving, they're learning to drive, they need to just mop it up and just get the feel of it. And really, I always tell people it's all in the butt.
Gotcha.
You feel how it drives with your butt, and once you get the hang of it, it's pretty darn easy.
Well, I know that's been since we've had Falcon. Well, since we've had the 195 in, that's always kind of been a topic of conversation. That 205 and 215 are just pretty rock solid, steady boats. But that 195,
I wouldn't be scared to drive the 195 with a 250 on
it. All right. That'd be
yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that could scare you just a hair.
It'd scare y'all. It'd be fun for me.
All right. Well, just for the record, we're not putting 250s on a 195, so it's rated for a 200, and that's what we put on.
Yeah, I'm just saying. It would be fun. It'd be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was again. I thought it was a good question, and to kind of have that conversation. I know it's been had over and over again around here. So, still, that 195 is a phenomenal boat. That 185.
And if you got 195 and you're having problems driving it, just come see me. I'll take you out there and I'll show you how to drive it.
Well, I know somebody made a comment that 185. I think it was Melissa we were talking to her the other day, and people are just loving the 185.
From what I've heard, it's really good drive.
Yeah,
I've actually never driven one of those.
So. In that 18.5 foot boat category for what you get, it's just kind of not necessarily a smaller 195. It's just a little bit shorter. I think it's the same beam and same size boat. So, sort of a tech question, sort of a sales question, I guess. I know you've had to deal with it with a couple of folks that are, but all right. Well, guys, I guess we're going to call it a day and get back to work. So, thanks for watching. Hopefully next week, come with a question, come with a comment. Let us know what's going on. Hopefully, we want to help you out as much as we can. So, all right, guys, y'all have a wonderful week, and we'll see you again next week. See you guys.